Well, welcome to Christ Serve Ranch. This is the country's first science and environmental learning center where we teach from a Lutheran Christian biblical worldview. One of the first things I like to do is to share how the name Christ Serve Ranch came into being. Back in 2005, Lutheran Island Camp received a grant from Thrive Financial to start a youth leadership program, and that program was called Christ Serve Leadership. We were looking at this property to purchase at that time, and we would bring the kids from that leadership program over here each year that we ran the program, and the kids would have a tour of the property, and then we would ask them to brainstorm how we might use the property and how we might raise the funds to purchase it. And over a period of 2 or 3 years, those kids raised almost $50,000 towards the purchase of Christ Serve Ranch. The board of directors made the decision to move ahead with additional property because we wanted to have a place where we could have RV camping, as well as move our horse program and to expand our science program. This is a unique property that meets all of those needs. First of all, let me share with you that it's 275 acres. It has 8 different biomes or environments on the property, and they include poplar forest, the native forest, prairie, lake shore, swamp, pond, marsh, glen, and just regular good old grass. In addition to having all of those biomes, the other unique thing about it geologically is that worldwide there are 12 types of soil that scientists have identified, and 4 of those types of soil can be found here on Christ Serve Ranch, which makes it a unique piece of property even in this area. Other things that make it interesting from a scientific perspective is that we're less than a couple of miles from the Continental Divide. We're at the confluence of the prairies of the Dakotas and the woods of Minnesota. We are within a half hour of over 1,000 lakes, and it has a rich geological heritage based on the Lake Agassiz glaciers that covered this entire region, and as they withdrew, they left significant geological formations that are even seen here. Over on the right-hand side here, you see where the eventual RV center will be. We're looking at having 20 to 30 sites that will be out here. These would be sites that our participants in our camp programs would stay at. They would also be for volunteers and for instructors who want to come to Christ Serve Ranch for a period of time to instruct in various science activities. These popple trees are about 25 to 30 years old and are scheduled to be harvested in the not too distant future, and then this landscape will be changed significantly. Over on the left, you see our area where the multi-purpose building and arena will be built. And this is an area where we hope to move our horse program. The multi-purpose building will have a large indoor arena. It'll have a lounge area, laundry, showers, and bathrooms for the RV center, and it'll have classrooms. It will also have an outdoor arena. It'll have stables and other activities for our horse program. In addition to having horseback riding as a part of the Lutheran Island Camp programs, here at Christ Serve Ranch we use the horses to get out to many of the science exhibits and other activities that are here at camp, and that makes us unique. Over on the right-hand side, you'll see a deer just down the trail here. This is a great habitat for deer, turkeys, a lot of other wildlife. We do have coyotes and fox. A cougar was spotted here a few years ago, but we haven't seen one since. There are wolves in the area, and we know that within 10 miles the black bear have been spotted. So we anticipate that they'll be moving into this area as well. This area has 98 acres of popple, and they're all ready to be harvested. After they're harvested, we will be changing the look of this part of the property. We'll have about 60 acres of this part of the property that will be restored to prairie. And that prairie restoration is going to take place in a number of stages. First of all of the existing trees will be removed. They'll be harvested and utilized for various things, ranging from building here at the ranch to chipping them up for a source of energy for a plant down in Benson, Minnesota. But then once all of the species are gone that are not native to this area, we will restore it to native prairie using 4 to 6 types of grasses and 4 to 6 types of flowers that will be planted here. And each of those will be identified as native to this area. It will be fairly costly because there's a lot of conditioning that has to be done to the land before you can plant it. Once the plants are established, we will use it for grazing for our horse program. They will act as kind of the modern day buffalo, because the buffalo, of course, grazed the prairies of this area. On the right-hand side, you see some of the native forest, and an owl just took off over there. This area has some trees that are quite old. Down there we have an exhibit of a tree that's several hundred years old. It's been cut up as far as we can go. We can make one last cut, and then we're going to color the rings of that tree so that people can actually take a look and see how big the tree was at various points in its lifespan. The woods provides a wonderful habitat for the deer, and we have 30 to 40 deer on this property at any one time. Coming up along the side here is a big brush pile, and that's actually intended to provide animal habitat for small mammals like chipmunks and squirrels. It provides a good place for birds, skunks, and other animals that will hide out in there and look for a place to stay. It also can attract coyotes who are coming here to look for dinner. As we come around the bend here, you'll see some of the prairie lands that were here. There's a prairie pothole down there that in the spring is used by geese and ducks for nesting. And this open area often is a site for turkeys, sandhill cranes, and other large birds that are nesting in the woods around here and come out to eat on insects and other things that are grasses and seeds. Coming up alongside here on the left-hand side is the location for our interpretive center. The interpretive center will eventually be dug into the hillside and built on top. It'll house our library, our technology center. It will have classrooms. It will have animal exhibits, including some animal mounts. And we'll provide a place for our library, which right now has over 4,000 volumes. You'll also see on the left are one of 3 different towers. 2 of them are for overnight. The kids can actually come out and they stay in them overnight. And while they're in there, they have an opportunity to use night vision glasses to take a look at animal activity out on the prairie that's out in front of them. And alongside of it is a big bird nest. During one of the science programs we had this past summer, the kids were studying birds in flight, and they decided to make a giant nest. And so that nest is going to be a permanent addition to our sessions on birds. Right on the left-hand side, you see what we call as a glen. A glen is defined as an area that was scooped out by a glacier. And usually there's a water source that flows through that area, and that water source provides significant ability for trees to grow fairly rapidly. And so they grow at a good pace, and then they develop a canopy. So underneath you tend to have more mosses and ferns, mushrooms, things like that. And that's what we have down in there. It's a real nice habitat for deer. They enjoy being down there. It's very close to a meadow that they can go out and eat in. One of the things that we're looking at doing at the ranch is having our own mushroom farm, where we would grow mushrooms using hardwoods, where we drill holes into the hardwood and then plant some of the spores from the mushrooms. And we're going to start doing that this next spring in 2016. There's a lot of other species of trees besides the oak that are the dominant ones. We've got a lot of ash. We've got ironwood, which is in the birch family. We have basswood trees, and there are a few old elms that are still around, but most of those are long gone due to Dutch elm disease. We're coming out now into one of two meadows that are separated by a strip of forest. The two meadows actually have been now planted to trees, and we have about 2,500 trees that have been planted in here. They include fruit trees, birch trees, oak trees, some pine trees, and this will become a mixed forest eventually. Up on the left-hand side is another of the observation towers, the overnight ones. And you can see on that post there's an exhibit. And on that exhibit, there's information that the casual walker who walks by would have information on what that exhibit is all about. Each of the exhibits explains what day of creation it was created. It also has relevant Bible passages, and it has a lesson plan. And often the lesson plans includes the scientific facts that are portrayed there, often relative to the theory of evolution. And oftentimes we try and show the difference between what science is telling and what the theory of evolution might be putting forth. And more often than not, the science does not support the evolutionary theory. We're coming up on our challenge course on the right-hand side. The challenge course has 21 different elements. And each of those elements is intended to give the individual or the group an opportunity to challenge themselves in their understanding of science and physics. There's a climbing wall, there are cables, there's swings. For those who don't want to participate, there's a bench, there's a cable walk, there's a board that you have to cross, there are trust falls, there's a spider's web, there are tire swings, there's a Jacob's ladder, there are several box swings that swing back and forth as you try and traverse them, and we have a cargo net. So all in all, there's 21 different elements to this challenge course. Again, our concept out here at Christ Serve Ranch is to try and get people, especially young people, out into nature and to experience the wonderful creation that God has given them. And the more time they spend out, whether it's taking a hike or physically being involved with the challenge course, we found that they have a better understanding of the creation that God gives them. And then they begin to learn more and begin to ask more questions. We're moving into an area now that's 27 acres. It, again, has a lot of popple trees. This is a little bit different area. There's a lot of volunteer growth that's starting to come up in here. A lot of ash trees are coming, and this too will eventually be harvested. This is going to be a very unique area for us. The whole 27 acres will eventually house up to 18 to 20 different life-size dinosaurs. And each of those dinosaurs will be life-size, and they will be posed in such a way that the kids will have a different understanding of dinosaur theory. It will be portrayed as having been created, the dinosaurs, on day 6, right alongside of man. And that is actually the biblical truth, that animals were all created on day 6. And so this dinosaur park will have an opportunity for us to share with the kids and adults who come out here information about dinosaurs and how they lived, what the earth was like prior to the flood, and to be able to answer a lot of their questions. And of course, many kids love dinosaurs, and we anticipate that this is going to be one of the favorite places for kids to come. And one of the things that we want to do is share with them some of the new science that's coming out that shows that dinosaurs didn't live millions of years ago, but rather thousands of years ago. One of the important aspects of teaching out here is to teach the kids that evolution and the Big Bang Theory are just theories that do not portray God's Word in a correct way. Many of these kids grow up believing that they've evolved from pond scum or from monkeys, and that leads them to have a low valuation of their own lives and the lives of other people. So we want to have them out here and learning what the truth is about science. We're going to be coming up on another one of our exhibits. Eventually there will be 32 exhibits here at the ranch. Right now we have 10 to 12 of them. They're in various stages of completion. This one is our native housing exhibit. It has one of our newer signs. The sign actually has what's called a QR code on it. And if you put your smartphone up to that, it will actually take you to our website where you can learn more about that exhibit. This exhibit will have all sorts of different native housing. The first one is up. It's a stick house that was actually built by some of our campers. They didn't use any tools at all to build that, and they actually stayed in it. That kind of a house, a shelter, would have been covered by branches and by skins. We'll eventually add to it a teepee, a wickiup, a longhouse, and grass shelters. So it'll give the kids an opportunity, and adults, to see what native housing was in this area. As we drive along here, we're on just a part of the 10 miles or more of trails that are on Christ-Serve Ranch. And those trails include wide trails like this that we can take vehicles down. They include horseback riding trails, hiking trails. We'll be adding this next spring in 2016, we'll be adding some mountain bike trails with some obstacles for the kids to do some jumping and things like that. We're coming back into the native forest now, and this native forest is pretty significant. There's some oak trees in here that are quite large and provide some excellent opportunities for us to do some different kinds of housing situations. One of the things we want to do is take some of these large trees and have cables suspended between them, and on a platform suspended between those trees we'll build our treehouse village, which will be close to each other, and the suspension bridges will actually attach from one treehouse to another, providing an opportunity for kids to have a real unique way to spend time out here. We recently renamed the Treehouse Village to Schroeder's Treehouse Village in honor of board member Gary Schroeder from Grand Rapids, who was very involved in helping us get the treehouse or the Christ-Serve Ranch purchased, and he passed away on August 15th of 2015, just prior to the dedication of the property. We're coming into another glen area, and this one again scooped out by glaciers, and significantly more water in this area. You can see the larger trees, a lot of smaller ones as well, and those tend to be ironwood. As we emerge from these woods, we'll be coming into a 17-acre section. Again, it has popple right now, but we've also planted over 6,000 pine trees in this area. And those pine trees are now well established and they're starting to look good. We also, on the left up here, this is where our farm site will be for the 19th century farm. It will eventually be the house and the barn and chicken coop and other buildings will be built in the style that would have been done back in the 19th century. We have the first of the equipment. Some of this has been donated, some of it purchased. All horse-drawn equipment that would have been used back in the 19th century. Again, our goal is to get people, whether they're kids or adults, out into nature and beginning to appreciate all of the gifts that God has given us in nature. On the left, you see our apiary, where we have a beehive, and it has a glass front to it so that the kids can watch the bees as they're gathering the honey. Those bees will be heading to Louisiana in short order. This is October, and this is about as late as they stay here. They will go down with a bee farmer from this area who takes all of his bees down to Louisiana for the winter. As we come around this corner, we'll be going down one of the roads that is one of our favorites. It follows along on either side, and it's a wonderful habitat. We watch a lot of deer in this area. A lot of turkeys will come out here. And one of the things that we want to point out is that parts of the forest we will actually come in and we'll take out deadfall. We'll take down some trees that are starting to be unsafe. And in other parts of the forest, we will just leave it as is. And those deadfall trees act as a wonderful protection for young fawns in the spring. It works well for birds like grouse and pheasants to keep them protected during various times of the year. And it gives us an opportunity to show kids the difference between when man is involved in nature and when he's not. This is an area that we spend a lot of time talking with the kids about the science aspects of Christ Serve Ranch. We'll be coming up to one of our favorite exhibits, and it's the woodpecker exhibit. We're blessed out here to have 7 different varieties of woodpeckers, but that's just part of the story of all of the birds out here. Well over 100, probably 130 different species of birds have been identified on this property. It's a wonderful habitat for birds. And this particular exhibit is for woodpeckers. We started off with a large tree, basswood tree that had died, and the woodpeckers took over. We spent a lot of time with the woodpeckers talking about how they could not have evolved. They have a spongy part to their brain that if it wasn't there right from the start, they wouldn't be able to hit their heads against the trees. We do that with a number of other animals too, and explain how God created them just the way they are right from the start. We're coming up on 4 of our cameras here at Christ Serve Ranch. And those cameras are internet accessible, so people from around the world can actually take a look at what's going on here at the ranch. We have a total of 8 cameras right now, and we'll add additional ones. This camera would allow somebody from Texas to be able to look up here in January and see us feeding the deer on the trail that we just came back. Or in May, they could watch the turkeys as they did their mating dances. And it's a part of what we're trying to do with our Christ Serve Academy, where we are taking all of the wonderful blessings of this beautiful property and rolling it up into the internet and making it available to classrooms around the world. One of the things we want to do is to share some of the science some of the observations, some of the exhibits, and some of the activities that we do here at Christ Serve Ranch, and provide an opportunity for kids in parochial schools, home schools, and parents who have children in public schools who want to have more information about science and about God's creation than what they may get in their own school. This again is the meadow that we passed earlier, and then you can see some of the trees are in cylindrical elements to keep them protected from the birds. As we come around here, we actually are crossing what we call Pioneer Trail. And Pioneer Trail is actually a trail that goes back into the 1800s. It was used as an ox cart trail by pioneers to haul things from the Battle Lake area up to the Perham, and eventually was one of the routes that they used to access the railroads back in the late 1800s. On the left-hand side, you see a prairie pothole, and that is wet in the spring, and a lot of ducks and geese use it for nesting and to find feed. On the right-hand side, we're passing Ellen's Pond. Ellen was one of our first volunteers. She was out here back in the mid-2000s and took a lot of photographs out here. She passed away in 2008, and her family set up a memorial fund for her, and that has provided over $20,000 to this point for purchasing the property and for things relative to the pond. The pond is about 7 acres. It has a beaver lodge on it. It's very active in the spring with lots of waterfowl activity, lots of bird activity, and is active for other wildlife, ranging from raccoons to skunks to fox and other animals. We have a boardwalk that we're starting to build. It's about 100 feet long so far, and it will eventually go all the way across the pond over to the farm site that we showed earlier. We can only build it during the wintertime because it's so muddy that we can't get in there. So we go out in the winter on the ice, and we drill holes in the ice and put the beams down in and then attach the dock to it. This is our Beaver Lodge observation tower. It's 16 feet tall, 16 feet on top and on the bottom, and it acts as a classroom and an observation area. You get a fantastic view from there. On the left is our garden and orchard. This is where we currently do our horse outreach program. This will eventually be moved over to where we showed you the multi-purpose building. But we have horseback riding programs all summer long, and we do that with children from age 8 on up. We have about 35 horses, and they range from some mini horses to our big draft horses, and we have a big draft mule as well.